ahead and introduce ourselves, and we'll have you introduce yourselves before we start. So my name is Francine, Maryland. I work with the Maryland Council for Civic and History. I'm a political scientist and constitutional scholar. And
my name is Jocelyn Broman, and we're gonna argue with each other. Okay. My name is Jocelyn Broman. I'm a We the People alumni, competed back in 2006. I currently work on Capitol Hill for Representative Paul Cook of California.
And I'm Mike Miles from Birmingham, Alabama. I'm the county treasurer at Jefferson County. Good to see you.
All right, would you introduce yourselves to us, please?
Yes, we are Unit 4 representing Team Illinois. Our coaches are Mr. Kevin C. Hansen and Mr. Andrew Tranko. My name is Kendall Kennan, and my colleagues are...
My name is Melina Muley.
I'm Ben Tallman.
And I'm Molly Honan.
All right. Well, welcome. Thank you. All right, so I will go ahead and read the question, and then you can begin your statement. So we are doing question number 3. Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution provides that state legislatures can determine the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives. It gives Congress the power to make or alter such regulations. What are the advantages and disadvantages of a uniform election process? What responsibility do some state legislatures, state election officials, and citizens have in maintaining free and fair elections? What are the advantages and disadvantages of the trustee and delegate theories of representation as they apply to congressional districts? You may begin.
The ballot is stronger than the bullet. President Abraham Lincoln was true in this assertion. The politicians we elect make the decisions that impact everyone in the United States on a daily basis.
Since the founding, the power of individual congresswomen and men has expanded as they have grown to represent more people as our country grows, making it more important than ever to ensure that they are elected fairly. The advantages of having a uniform election process far outweigh the negatives in ensuring that all people have the same rights to vote versus being able to alter voting procedures in individual states.
Justice Louis Brandeis observed, "A single courageous state may, if its citizens choose, serve as a laboratory and try novel social and economic experiments without risk to the rest of the country." For example, Wyoming allowed women to vote in 1869, 51 years before the 19th Amendment granted all women the right to vote. A disadvantage allowing states the ability to institute their own voting policies is that they could discriminate against certain groups of people.
Even after the ratification of the 15th Amendment, some southern states found ways to limit this right and skew the vote towards pro-segregation. This was done through literacy tests, poll taxes, and grandfather clauses. It took until Congress passed the Voting Rights Act of 1965 for state election changes to be pre-cleared by the federal courts. Granting states an excessive amount of power to change voting procedure undermines the very concept of a uniform election process, which is to give all people a voice in government.
Creating a uniform election process was an integral aspect of government for the founders. However, federalism in the Constitution limits the amount of power that Congress can exert over the election of senators and representatives. Currently, the federal government still found ways to regulate elections by overseeing policy areas such as campaign financing and appropriating federal funds to finance election administration.
Making elections a more federal process would make them more secure, as seen in the Help America Vote Act passed in 2002. Another instance in which the federal government was successful in unifying the election process is through the 24th Amendment, which states that no voter shall be denied or abridged by the United States or any state by reason of failure to pay any poll tax or other tax. Congress should continue to take an impactful role in regulating elections because it is the most conducive for implementing positive, standardized change.
Gerrymandering has recently been the largest problem plaguing elections. Therefore, let's make a conscious effort to diminish it. In the North Carolina Supreme Court case, Megan Cosby Lewis in 2019, the court held that its state voting maps would be redrawn. Redistricting is an issue that must be dealt with by the state. Just importantly, citizens need to go out and vote. 92 million eligible voters did not vote in the 2016 elections. Procedures such as automatic voter registration and same-day voter registration could result in over 22 million more voters and foster more civic engagement.
Under the delegate form of representation, more voices can be heard in the government since representatives listen to the opinions of their constituents. Under the trustee form of representation, constituents place their trust in his or her judgment, making it easier for representatives to make decisions. We believe that the trustee form of representation is the ideal model for our nation, but in reality, it is not solely used. In the 1830s, Alexis de Tocqueville identified America's intense regional differences, making representing a mere 30,000 constituents challenging.
With a current population of over 300 million, it is even less feasible for members of Congress to find common ground with their constituents under the delegate model. However, with today's technology and social media, the public is too aware and Congress members are too concerned with re-election for the trustee model to work, making the delegate theory more practical. The debate over the delegate and trustee forms of representation would not be possible if the United States did not utilize districts. With other systems of representation, such as proportional representation, every representative would serve the party rather than the people.
President Lyndon B. Johnson once said, "A man without a vote is a man without protection." We believe state legislators, election officials, and citizens must maintain free and fair elections under the uniform election process by reducing the impact of gerrymandering and emphasizing the importance of each and every vote. However, on the national level, Congress must take a greater role in standardizing the election process in order to truly have free and fair elections. The state and national governments must work together to protect the vote of every individual. Thank you. We are now open for questions.
Thank you very much. All right. So I wanted to ask you, do you know that there are any groups that are still disenfranchised? And if so, what are they, and what are some of the things that are causing them to be disenfranchised?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end of your question. Could you
Okay.
repeat that?
Sure. I'm asking if you think there are any groups that are still disenfranchised. So who are they, and what is causing them to be disenfranchised still?
One group,
I would say are felons. There are certain states such as Maine and Vermont that do allow everyone still in prison to vote. However, many states don't even allow them to vote after they have served their time. In our home state of Illinois, you can't vote while you are imprisoned, but once you are released, you are able to maintain your vote. So I believe this is mainly due to the states, and every state is handling it differently, but I believe that this could be changed and allow for more of them the right to vote.
adding on to my colleague, I believe that people of color are greatly disfranchised, partly because of the court decision Shelby County v. Holder. They determined that the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the federal government was not able to pre-clear the state's actions. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, for example, stated that this court's decision is like throwing away your umbrella in a rainstorm because you are not getting wet. So I believe that getting rid of that provision in the Voting Rights Act greatly disenfranchised many people of color.
Adding on to my colleague's point, having voter ID laws in certain states has also disenfranchised certain minority groups. According to Neil Albrecht at the Milwaukee Election Commission, having voter ID laws severely hurt voter turnout. In 2016, the voter turnout was 21% less than it was in 2012. And this was primarily due to the voter ID laws that the state had put in place, and this primarily hurt minority groups.
Francine, let me ask you this, if you don't mind. One of the great unique things about Illinois election law that I think is different from the other 49 states is no runoff provision, not only in the statewide election, but also Cook County. I had a friend, Eugene Sawyer, that was chosen mayor of Chicago when Harold Washington died. And Mayor Washington, Mayor Sawyer, Barack Obama, Carol Moseley Braun got elected with less than 40% of the vote because there was no runoff. Does no runoff in Illinois elections disenfranchise white voters?
I do not believe that having no runoffs disenfranchises white voters. Actually, in Chicago, I believe that they did have a runoff election for the latest mayor.
What about statewide? Are United States senators still elected with minority of the vote?
Yes, they can, but I don't necessarily think it's just Illinois that's the issue. In the 1984 election, Ronald Reagan was won by a quote-unquote landslide victory, but he actually only received 32.9% of the potential electorate because other people either voted for another candidate or didn't vote at all.
Adding on to my colleague's point, in our most recent presidential election, Hillary Clinton actually won the majority of votes. However, due to our electoral college, she lost the presidential election. So you could say the same thing about that. However, it has been in place for such a long time, and it has allowed us to have a more fair election.
Slightly disagreeing with my colleague, I'd like to mention that the electoral college nowadays serves in order to give equal representation to the more rural states. For example, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote in California by more votes than she won the popular vote in the entire election in 2016.
You mentioned in your statement that the representatives in Congress tend to be more delegate now just because that's how it's turned out. Do you agree with that, or should we have modern representatives be more trustees?
I believe that the government should be more trustee because like we said, with the population of over 300 million people, the government would be able to get more done if they weren't constantly going back to get feedback from their constituents. And they would also be more open to compromise if they were in the trustee form of government. However, in Congress, the Electoral Connection by David Mayhew, he notes that congressmen are only driven by re-election, so that is really not possible.
We could see that the natural trend is for the delegate model, even though the trustee model is better in practice. In the January 2019 poll, 53% of the population approved of their individual Congress member, while only 23% of the population agreed with Congress as a whole.
Judges, we're past the time, but I do know that we had a few audio issues there. So I just want to make sure, because it's about the kid, if there was something you didn't hear clearly and you needed them to repeat something, feel free to ask that now, or if you think you're good, then you're good.
I'm good. Yeah.
You guys did a great presentation, so yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, are you going first?
No, you go ahead.
Okay.
I think the green box is kind of just bouncing around right now.
The green box kind of threw me off. All right. So, I thought you did a fabulous job. I thank you for being willing to do it in this format. I know it's new to all of us, and it's not as good as being in person. But I thought you did a fabulous job working together here. I thought you did a really good job covering a lot of good information in your presentation. I like how you pointed out how Wyoming actually allowed women to vote a lot earlier than the 19th Amendment when it was passed. You brought up the Help America's Work Act, the 15th Amendment, the Voting Rights Act, 1965. I am glad that you included some discussion of the gerrymandering and redistricting in there. And then I thought you did a really nice job on the follow-up questions. I like how in the questions that I asked you that you were able to bring the example of the court case Shelby County versus Holder when talking about disenfranchisement. So I thought that was really good. And I really liked your discussion of David Mayhew at the end there, so bringing that in as well. So you had a lot of contemporary examples to talk about the historical as well. So it was a nice blend of the historical and the contemporary. So very nice.
Yeah, I will echo that. You guys did a fantastic job. I especially liked when you talked about how you looked at trustee versus delegate and how it may have started one way and then seems to tend towards the other, which is why I asked my question. But it's a good example of that it's not usually just one or, that it's usually a combination of them. And that's something that you've highlighted well, and I appreciated. I definitely appreciate that. Being someone who works in Congress and gets to see some of that decision making, it's interesting to see the intersections of all the things. It's constituency, it's party, it's good for the country, it's national security issues. Like, these things all come together for senators and congressmen to make those decisions. So it's you guys have understand that there's this constituent connection that is very big and is very looms large in how congressmen make decisions, but there's also this trustee aspect that's still kind of there, especially on larger issues of national security as well. So good job on that discussion. I appreciated it.
I agree with what they said. This is one of those times when after the 10 minutes are up, you wish you could start over and have 10 more minutes. So, okay, you understand the problem. How do we fix it? What changes specifically would you make and how would those work? One of the things too is a 4-person panel. With a 4-person panel, it's a little harder to divide the time equally, but I think you did it. I think the questions and answers we asked you, each one had a shot at had different. I think if we were timing you, it would have come out really close to even on how you divided up the time in the Q&A, and that's always helpful to us to get to hear from all of you. And we did. A lot of other things I could say, but because it's late, we've said this a number of times today. Andy, the best gift a person can be given in life is the gift of a good teacher. And for y'all to be able to pull this together and do this today with the degree of difficulty y'all had to do it with, makes us tip our hat to you. This was fun to watch and fun to listen to, but I know it was harder to do. So thank you for all the work that the 4 of them and the 2 of you did with them to get them ready. Thank you very, very much.